Bird, 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 bird. Get him. Yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. If I sound a little scratchy, it's because I talked to people for 3 days straight at Pheasant Fest. Not only that, I had a BHA pint night on Wednesday night. I got there Wednesday during the day. And then I had friends come in. I had Bill and Trent and Heather come in, and Roof came in, all to help me with the Hunting Dog Podcast booth and village. I am talked out, but I got one more left in me. That's why this is coming out on Tuesday night. Sorry, I was on the road. I was busy. What an event it was. Now, I will tell you, because you'll probably hear about this from somebody, that it was less attended, but it didn't feel like it. Sunday felt less attended, and Sundays are always a slow day. It's kind of like the people who couldn't, they had to go to their kids' soccer practice on Saturday, and they finally had to sneak out on Sunday so they could go see everything they wanted to buy for next year. But it was a great event. It was, it was 2 years since they had the last Pheasant Fest. And when you're in the middle of talking and walking and working, and you kind of feel like, oh, why do I do these things? But it's kind of like a good hunt. Sometimes a good hunt is just kind of grueling. And you're kind of like, you know what? I'm not coming back here. That was a lot of walking for a few bird contacts. That's not the exact right analogy because there was a lot more than a few contacts made. But what I'm getting at is sometimes those long weekends or those hunts that get to be like a real grind. Those are the ones you remember. It's not like the roller coaster ride that you're like, wee, you go up, wee, you go down. But you don't come home and brag about a roller coaster ride. You had nothing to do with it. But all my listeners and all the Pheasant Fest attendees had something to do with it. It was just wonderful. I'm already making plans for next year, seriously, and you should too. I saw a lot of my patrons there. A lot of them stopped by, and I can't thank you enough for making that trek out there. In fact, it was really good that I did not draw the names for the Gunner Kennel giveaway because one of my regular attendees on the Patreon Zoom room, which that's if you're a Patreon patron to the Hunting Dog Podcast, twice a month we have a Zoom room, and we'll have one coming up this Thursday, and we'll get into Pheasant Fest a lot on that one. One of my patrons that I see on screen on a regular basis, his name was drawn. And I was like, I am so glad I didn't do the name drawing myself because that would have looked like good old Chicago nepotism. Anyway, Ben, hey, you did it. It wasn't because of me. Anyway, you know how that works, Patreon, all that stuff. But let's just get to it. Pike Gear was there. They had a great weekend. They were right on the end cap, busy as all get out. In fact, they had their changing station over in our part of the complex, and it was great to see everybody from Brent's crew. They introduced a new pair of pants, and I'm telling you, there's no stopping them. Just like Onyx. Onyx was there. Ben and Andrew came by. We shot the breeze several times. It was just fantastic. Oh, Zach from Weatherby, our newest sponsor, was there. We had a little chit-chat. In fact, Zach sat down behind me. I didn't even know he was there. And there was a listener coming up and just said, hey, Ron, what happened to that other gun company you had? I said, posers, okay? I got a real gun company now. Anyway, Weatherby was there. Boss Shot Shells was there right on the backside of our side in our area. Lee and his son Luke were there. The crowd never stopped hanging around there. Walton's was there. Jonathan, Brent, and Brett's son was there. They came by, gave me about a 10-pound sealed up bag of little samples that they, didn't give away. So I came out of there like a thief. They came over right at the end of Pheasant Fest and said, "Hey, Ron, we got all this stuff left over. I want to give you this, and who should we give this to? And I told them to go right over there to the front of the end cap. I said, give that to the Pike boys. They were there. They had the cooking stage. Purina, of course, was there with the bird dog training stage. Like I said, the crowds weren't as big as other ones. I mean, it was busy. It didn't feel like there was an echo chamber in there. But they had all the bird dog trainers up there. They had Ronnie Smith up there. They had Rick Smith up there and his wife Susanna Love. And every seat in the seminars was filled all the time. Purina has I cannot believe what they do to put on one of these Pheasant Fests, honestly. They have a bag of dog food at almost every booth, and then they have pallets of samples that we're giving away if you haven't tried it. So if you haven't tried it, you haven't been listening. Let's just say you're a new listener, you haven't figured it out. Well, that's why we feed Purina, because they support us, just like Walton's and Boss and Onyx and Pike. Gunner Kennels, I gave away 2 Gunner Kennels while I was there. I had the food crate there for people to look at. I had my Garmin banner up. We talked a little Garmin with a few people. We had canine athlete samples to give away. You missed if you weren't there. I mean, we were giving away New Dog, probiotics, Hydrate and Recover, some of their new wilderness athlete products called Hero, Hero. It's a little self-contained bag. You just put your water in it, go up to a drinking fountain. That's right. You don't need bottled water, okay? Geez, it'll be Christmas. You don't need to go buy a bottle of water. Turn the tap on, fill this little bag up, squeeze it, wiggle it a little bit, boom. Exactly. Energy, focus, everything in a little jug of Hero. That was there. I mean, it was just fantastic. You know, W couldn't be there. I mean, that's not their, it's a long way to go. But W, if you're looking for equipment, in fact, I just got an email today. It says, Ron, does W have any promo codes? I said, no. What they have is the best service in the world. And he says, I know that. I've already bought stuff from them in the past. Just wanted to make sure that they knew that they called W. It almost rhymes, doesn't it? Almost. It's like talking to family when you talk to them. Deck Drawer, unfortunately, could not get me the sample there. That was probably the only side of the thing that I'm like, people said, oh, I thought you were going to have a Deck Drawer sample. Couldn't make it happen. The sample that was near Omaha, and these are like a mini sample. You can't bring a full-size Deck Drawer in there unless you brought in a full-size pickup truck. And they are, if you don't know what Deck Drawer systems are, look it up. You won't want to go into next season without it, nor would you want to go without a subscription to Shooting Sportsman magazine. It's about birds, people, places, dogs, and guns. It's everything we saw at Pheasant Fest. I had the Upland Institute there, up on a big screen TV. We had our loop. We had all the training up there. We had all kinds of content up there. It was just so fun. We need a bigger booth. We gave 10% of proceeds from the weekend to the Nebraska Grass Restoration and Waters Project. I'm not getting the name right, but a lot of the sponsors or a lot of the vendors there gave us percentage of sales. We did too at Upland Institute. Oh, well, you can tell I'm a little tired. But anyway, yeah. You got Pike Gear, Onyx, Weatherby. Oh, and don't forget Weatherby. Just use the promo code HDP. That's it, HDP. Look at Weatherby's elements. I'm not doing this twice. I'm at 8 minutes, and I swear to God, I'm not going to do this twice. The old Ryan shotguns, the Element shotguns, and all right, I'm just letting this cat out of the bag. We're working on a side-by-side. I don't know how long it's going to take. It might take years, but we're working on a side-by-side. Well, I am, and yes. Give them a call. So no other gun company that's ever sponsored this show has offered a promo code. Use the promo code. You can go right and you buy your guns right from Weatherby. Nobody else I've ever had let you buy their guns from them. You don't even have to go to the gun shop. You can get a hold of Weatherby and buy that and use a promo code HDP and save some money. That's where it's at. That's a hell of a family of guns right there. 100% American. I love it. Anyway, I don't know what else to tell you. This podcast I did weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Stopped down at Gunner Kennels and got to see Addison. Hadn't seen Addison in a long time. We did a podcast. We talked to, we're not going to bore you with the history of Gunner Kennels. We threw a couple tidbits in, but it was about dogs and seasons and kids and new dogs and losing dogs. And his new dog, yeah, Addison's got a new dog, and it's not named Gunner, okay? You can figure that out. It's not named Gunner, and it's not named Spot, but he's got a new lab. Anyway, did I get everything? I think I am worn out, but I'm going to pull through this. I think I did it, right? Pike here, Onyx, Weatherby, Boss Shot Shells, Waltons, Purina, Gunner Kennels, Garmin, Canine Athlete, W Hunting Supply, Deck Drawer System, Shooting Sportsman Magazine, and my own very own favorite, Upland Institute. I think that's that. I think we're there. Wow. Enjoy this episode. I want to thank everybody that came by and shook hands, and I mean, it never stopped. It was, like I said, the aisles weren't as crowded, but over by the Hunting Dog Podcast Village, it never stopped. And if I didn't get to say hi to you, I could see people standing there, and I'm bullshitting with somebody else, and Roof and Trent and Heather and Biller, and I know people wanted to say hi, and they had to keep walking, but I hope I got to shake hands with each and every one of you that wanted to. It was a real pleasure to be there. Oh, what else? Oh, you know what else I did? I was my friend Heather Hardy. She took Tagus through the Bird Dog Parade to kick off the whole thing. Heather walked him through there, and he behaved very well. He really did. What else? That was one of the notes I said. Yeah, the Bird Dog Parade. Oh well, I'm starting to draw. I think it's starting to creep back up on me. It's the old age. Sorry. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed last weekend. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. I had a confrontation that is going to be. I'm going to put out I've got another Hunting Dog Podcast Talk. That's the second tier level of Patreon patronage. Boy, I had a confrontation from somebody. It'll remain nameless to the masses, but those of you who are Patreons, and those of you who are in the second tier, where the Hunting Dog, that's the unfiltered Ron, wait till you hear this week's story. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a point where we had a situation in the main hallway right in front of our booth where people had to go the other way because they thought there was going to be a fight. Turned out to be okay, but it's a funny story, and you'll hear about it Thursday. Love you guys. Love you girls. Love you girls more. Always have. Always will. Hey, everybody. It's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee with Addison Edmonds of Gunner Kennels. We're we just opened up a mason jar of Sugarland Shine, and I just wanted to taste it out of curiosity. And not bad, but I'm going to stick with Diet Coke. How you doing, Addison?
I'm doing good. How are you?
When's the last time I saw you? At Pheasant Fest, I think? Oh, no. I stopped by your other plant. I came down here to see you, of course, and do an episode, but you've moved your facility here in Nashville. The last time I saw you...
That would have been 2019.
Yeah, right before COVID.
Yeah. So we moved in here like a week before COVID started.
Did you?
Yeah.
And that was an epic one because I don't know if we didn't do a podcast, and I think I just came by and got some sweatshirts or something. And Addison had to break into his own building because he doesn't have the passcode for the alarm. And then the police came to the door, knocked on the door, wanted to know what we were doing in the building. It's
cool. It's cool.
So how do you get in the new building now, Addison? I mean,
they have to knock.
That's it?
They don't give you the passwords.
They don't trust you with anything here, do they?
Probably for a reason.
Except for coming up with
some product ideas.
Good ideas.
Yeah.
What's going on new with, like I said, we haven't had a chance to shoot the shit on the phone for over a year, and what's going on with Gunner? What's coming up?
Yeah, we got some exciting stuff this year and next. We're working on a lot of new products. I think in the short term, we've got some limited edition kennels and food crates coming out. I think 2 or 3 different versions that they all support conservation in some way, and getting a new dog tomorrow. Tomorrow, going to drive down to Tupelo and pick up a Fox Red Lab.
Nice.
Which it's not a chocolate, which we talked about before.
Yeah.
I've always been a chocolate guy, but
And I told you should never buy a car based on the paint job.
Yeah. So I've it's been about a year since Gunner passed, and probably for 6 months I wasn't really ready.
Yeah.
After about 6 months I was ready, but I still wasn't really over him. So timing worked out, and it'll be right at a year. So I've been kind of without a dog for a year.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I've been brushing up on all my training books and different DVDs and stuff, trying to get back in that, because I haven't been in training mode since.
How old was Gunner?
He was 12.
He was 12.
So last time I was literally like working him would have been when he was like
a dad,
4.
You weren't a husband.
No.
You were just
Yeah.
a bum college student.
Yeah, exactly.
If I remember,
with time.
picture college based on where the duck hunting was the best.
Yep.
Isn't that a true
Yep,
story?
that's right.
So now you're like dusting off DVDs, and
Yeah.
do you actually have a DVD player anymore?
No, I
No.
had to put it in somebody's computer, but there's one book I kind of ran my training off of with Gunner, and I made a lot of mistakes. He was my first dog to train, but looking forward, I'm realizing kind of the mistakes I made and trying to do it right with this new pup. So we'll see. I mean, if he's 11 weeks now, I mean, he might be able to start dove hunting in September. But I'm going to try to take it slow, just work on the basics.
So he's already 8 weeks.
He's 11 weeks right now.
Oh,
I've been traveling, and just logistics hadn't worked out.
I'll tell you, I just had this. I'm working on another project. Like I'm always working on something in the dog world. And the fella that he wasn't a mentor of mine, but he was a dog behaviorist, ruled for Gun Dog, Ed Bailey. Mm-hmm. He was one of the original founders of NAVDA. And he told me years ago, he says, people shouldn't even be picking up dogs until they're 10 to 12 weeks old.
Yeah.
And I started doing that with the last few breedings I had. You think about it, they get their kidneys are bigger, their bladder's bigger, they got better control. And the biggest thing is, Ed said, if they can be with at least one other litter mate, a lot of them will go home.
Right.
If they can be around the other dogs, they're going to learn more about being a dog with the other dogs, and they can come in at 8 weeks being slapped into a house with 4 children.
Right.
All of a sudden, you're like, where's the dog? Right? And Ed told me this, that dogs, I'm sure there's a lot of variations of this, so I'm not telling you I'm a dog behaviorist, but he said dogs will develop their fears between 5 and 10 weeks of age. Like, you could knock something in the door, a horn could honk, a gun could, firework. Right. If there's an age where they're going to learn fear, it's like from 5 to 10 weeks is where they really could get screwed up. And I started thinking back of a couple dogs that I had. I'm like, I wonder if it wouldn't have helped them to be a little more socialized with their own kind.
Right.
And
that's, I think that there's one litter mate that they're going to make a started dog. Mm-hmm. So he's been with
another litter mate.
That's
and great.
I didn't know if it was also important to stay with the mom for that much longer, but I think I think they prefer to separate them at 8 weeks or something like that for some reason.
But they're still around them.
Yeah.
But they're not laying and sleeping with them or
Right.
anything like that. Yeah, I did the same thing with my pups. And they'll try to go up and get an extra nurse.
Right.
Mom scolds them, but that's all
part of learning.
That's all part of it.
Yeah.
I hope that becomes a trend that I think will help people in the long run. Because sometimes you get a dog and you're like, I love this dog. Why does he or she do this?
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
Maybe it's something it needed to learn from its mom or its litter mate.
Yeah.
And us dumb humans are trying to like, no. And he's like, I don't speak English. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, honestly, like traveling all of last duck season, last weekend was the youth hunt that I took my oldest Marie on. I haven't had the time to get our house in order.
Yeah.
I mean, this last 2 weeks, I've been catching up on to-dos from the last 90 days. And so it really couldn't have happened any sooner in terms of picking up a dog.
Right.
I'm, going back, refreshing on what to do. I've got to get the kennels in place, and I'm trying to build an outdoor kennel. And I haven't had time to do that yet. So, I mean, it's still,
right.
I think the timing's going to work out perfect.
Was Gunner always a house dog? Did you acclimate him to an outside kennel?
So I learned pretty early on. I got him around New Year's, and I had a kennel in our laundry room at the house. You know, there's probably 5 guys living in a little 3-bedroom ranch-style house. And I built a kennel, like a fenced kennel outside my window. I dug a moat. I didn't know if the dog was going to dig, so I dug a moat and put some 4x4s up and put some welded wire in there and put concrete in that moat so he could never dig out.
Oh, wow.
And so he was...
In a rental house?
Yeah, they didn't...
Excuse us for the statute of limitations ran out on that.
They didn't really pay attention to anything we were doing. We'd be like 6 months late on rent, and they didn't even know. But so I was able to have a kennel inside my bedroom, and I built him a little doghouse outside in that kennel, just lined it with hay. Mm-hmm. So like I was, you know, he'd be inside for a little bit, and I'd open the kennel. I learned pretty early on, like if you keep him in an outdoor kennel and you only take them out 3 to 6 times a day for 5 to 10 minutes to train, like that's the highlight of their day.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to keep them separate, you know, and now that I'm working, you know, all day, every day, I'll have something set up here to try to keep him to where the highlight of his day is just little training sessions.
Yeah, you don't need to spend 24/7 with them. You just need to spend X amount. In fact, I had one trainer told me that 20 minutes a day, if you could spend 20 minutes of a day, that's enough to really bond with your dog.
Right.
I have no way to tell that.
Yeah. I was watching something last night, and it was like, you know, the first 5 weeks when you're really working on crate training, you know, when they're really little, they might can only go 45 or an hour without relieving. And then I didn't really ever think about this, but there's 2 different types of whines. If you let them out, they go to the bathroom, they come back in, and within 15 minutes they're whining. They're just wanting attention.
Right.
But if they didn't go, or you put them in, and like an hour later they're whining, like that's, hey, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
So
if they've been quiet for a while.
Right.
And then then you gotta pay attention.
Yeah. So I think that I rushed it with Gunner in terms of like retrieves and stuff, and I'm gonna try to focus primarily on sit, stay, and here, and just keep it real simple.
Yeah. I did that with this new dog. I'll bring him in when we're all done here. And I didn't throw bumpers for him. If he picks stuff up and carries it, fine. And I'm trying to take this of like, look, his genes are there. He needs structure.
Yeah.
It's like my famous saying is, because of the podcast, I can't filter all the emails I get. And it's always, hey, Ron, I'm getting a new dog, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Ron, what kind of dog, blah, blah, blah. And I will get this question: when should I put my dog on birds? And it's kind of like you just have to feel that out, but don't risk it at a bad time when there could be a good opportunity for birds later.
Right.
And my mantra is, and because this is not listened to by children, is I would ask you, Addison, did your dad leave Playboy magazines around when you were 5 or 6 years old, or was he pretty sure you were going to like them when you hit puberty?
Probably the latter.
Right.
Yeah.
So people tend to do the analogy is they get this dog and they want to show them the birds, they want to show them the gun, they want to show them everything, and it's a little bit of it's sometimes a little too much.
Well, the way that one of the books that I really enjoyed learning how to train was British Training for the American Retriever, Vic Barlow, and his thing was, this is loosely based. You have to teach your kids to put their dishes in the dishwasher. Yeah. You don't have to teach them to eat ice cream. So work on the basics. You got to teach them sit, stay, and here. But you don't have to teach them how to retrieve. That's their ice cream. Yeah. So it's hard to do that because you want to. I might throw a little rolled up sock every once in a while, but it's hard to refrain yourself from being like, oh, look, he really loves to retrieve.
Right, especially you get a retriever, the last name's Retriever. Right. And you're like, well, let's see how good he is.
Right.
He's already going to be good.
Yeah.
Did you get this and we don't have to go into kennels or anything, did you get it with Gunner Kennels and the connections you have now that you didn't have to Google where to buy land, right?
Yeah. No, it was actually kind of a weird thing. Like I've always wanted chocolates, and we had another dog that got ran over around Christmas and decided we just need one now, and called a buddy, and he actually had one available, and we were able to make it work pretty quick. And yeah, I've never had anything but a chocolate, but this will be a fox red, and I think he's going to be pretty big. He's already 20 pounds at 11 weeks, I think.
That picture looked pretty stocky.
Yeah.
He looked like he's got some thick ankles.
Yeah, he might be in a large kennel. I was thinking last night, I was like, all right, because my 4-year-old will make the dog sleep with her in the kennel in her room, but I was like, I need like 6 kennels, one in every room.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, what if he outgrows them pretty quick? I have to bring those back and trying to do all the logistics. And I'm like, well, I've still got a couple of Gunner's old kennels, and we'll be able to make it
Start
work.
him out in an intermediate.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah. So what was the season like last year? I mean, it was like you had him for 12 years, and I know first years are never like a real season, but 11 years of hunting.
Yeah.
And having to call up friends with dogs then? How did that go?
It was weird, man. Like I did a lot more deer hunting, which I've grown up deer hunting, but just with Gunner, I've always rather be duck hunting. And the duck hunts I went on, we had a great season. There were some hit or miss days, but there's some really good days. But I felt like I wasn't as mad at them in terms of, here's an example. We were in Stuttgart. I thought we were only supposed to be there for 3 days. I didn't know that our marketing guy, Andrew, had lined up like 4 more hunts for like the rest of the weekend.
Wow.
And I was like, it was, I think that day we got a ton of snow in Nashville, and I was like, all right, I'm heading out. And he's like, well, we got more hunts. What do you mean you're going home? Is that Emily telling you got to come home? I'm like, no, I missed my wife and kids, and like we shot ducks, and I'm ready to get back. And I'd been on the road since like Thanksgiving, so
yeah.
I just hadn't been around a lot. And it kind of hit him, and I was like, I didn't even realize what I was saying, but I was like, if I had a dog, I'd be there. I'd be hunting for as long as I can, but I don't have a dog, and I'm just, it's not as, there's a different level of it when it's your dog. And it's fun, like, it's fun hunting around other good dogs, like watching them, but kind of bittersweet, makes you miss your dog. And so it was a weird season, but still a good one. I mean, got on some really good hunts.
Yeah.
It's just, when you're so used to having a dog for 12 years,
Yeah,
it's just weird.
See, I've had this terrible ability to have 3 or 4 or 5 dogs. So when I lose one, the other 3 need me.
Right.
And it's always terrible.
Yeah.
But it's always like, hey, Manny, Mo, and Jack got to get fed today.
Right.
And they got to go out. And I that's something I cannot put my shoes in, or my feet in those shoes, like that void.
Right.
Just like,
yeah.
because with one dog, it is definitely more family. It's more like your brother, your best friend.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up getting another one. Emily, well, I think she's wanting to get another poodle or something around there. And at first I was like, we've got 4 little kids, and I'm going to have my hands full enough just trying to train one. But, building an outdoor kennel, doing it right with this lab, I think we can do it right with another dog. Why not throw another one in the mix? Just one more mouth
never
to feed.
stop you from exactly. That's like your mantra. Well, let's have another baby.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Are you done, by the way? Not to be personal.
Yeah.
You good?
I got neutered and realized if I didn't, we'd probably end up with 10 by about now. So
got neutered. See, now, that's not my problem. I got fat, but I consider myself trans slender. That's how I get around it this year. So the hunting's, but I could picture. It's of course, with duck hunting, it's about the retrieves. Although a well-mannered dog in the blind is something to brag about too. Mm-hmm. Especially when they look up in the air and you're looking at a duck.
Yeah, I would just watch their eyes.
Right. You could kind of do something else and keep your eye on your dog.
Yeah, I would literally look at his eyes, and when they open up big, I knew that they were within shooting. To turn around and shoot them. I mean, I was like that way you're not flaring them. Looking.
Right.
Up,
Right. You can let him,
dog.
and he just blends in like nothing. The duck can't see that.
Yeah.
But the second best part of it, that steadiness in the blind, that retrieve. And I could imagine hunting with somebody, because I've bird hunted with other people, and when their dog doesn't make the retrieve, if it's your buddy, you're going to bust them about it. But there's that little party who's like, your dog should be better. Your dog should be, I don't want to say as good as mine.
Right.
But
you're always kind of comparing.
You do.
Probably not the right way to think, but that's just you end up doing it.
Right. Because what we always remember are those astounding retrieves.
Yeah, I don't ever think about when it's slow and I'm hunting with a dog that's not whining. I don't ever think that Gunner would whine.
Right.
Although, I think the last hunt I was on, we were in Kansas about 3 weeks ago, and this guide who had just got done telling me one of my top 3 hunts was last year when we were there. It was one of Gunner's last hunts. We killed like a 13-man limit, like quick in the afternoon. And he said that was, one of my most memorable hunts. Well, his dog's got a great dog. And he said that dog started whining a little bit. And it sounded just like Gunner when he would whine when it's slow. And it kind of warmed me up. Like, I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I said something like, believe it or not, like, I actually enjoy that because it makes me, he's like, and he was like, he never whines. And I believe him because this is a guide's dog that I've never seen whine. I said, oh, it's okay. He's just channeling his inner Gunner.
It does. Yeah. It's like a dog that, like, the last one I had that was a leaner. Whenever you went to, like, even a trade show or people come over, he would take all of his body weight.
Put it on you.
And put it on you. And then when somebody else's dog does that to me, it's like, channeling a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. We kind of jumping all over it. What else we got coming up here?
Well, we've got some, I think we're going to talk about, these save stories. We've had a few of them come in, and it's funny, if I go somewhere and have a Gunner hat on, somebody's like, oh, I love that, I saw that ad that y'all did for that wreck, and I don't ever like the feeling of like scaring people into it. It's more of like, not bragging, but just like, we never thought this would happen with this.
It should be a pride thing.
Yeah. And there's been like 50 save stories, and I think we might promote like one out of every 5 or 6.
Right.
And this time of year, it's like every week or every other week we have somebody email us. But
wintertime, people sliding off the road like crazy.
That was what happened with this last big one. Was I believe the guy was in Oregon in a snowstorm, ran off the road, flipped his truck. I think he was bleeding, broke a bunch of ribs or bones or something. He just assumed his dog was dead. He thought that was such a bad wreck. There's no way the dog was alive. It was all he could do to get out to the interstate and wave people down. And he did, and I think they had got the ambulance there, and a sheriff showed up, and he said, just can you go check on my dog? And he came back and said, and matter of fact, he might have already been in the hospital when he found this out, but he said the dog's wagging his tail in the back,
And the truck ended up on top of the kennel.
Right.
You couldn't weld up a kennel that good.
Well,
literally. I mean, unless you knew what you were doing, it would have to be a gun safe.
Yeah, and I think we're doing one story in the future, but we've had 2 this year where our customers have called and said, it not only saved my dog's life, it saved my life. There was somebody flipped a Jeep Compass and in a flash flood, and the kennel held up the back enough for them to sneak out the back to escape.
No kidding.
And so I mean, there's been some stories like that I'm always like, let's post it right away, but again, that's why they don't give me the password to anything.
That's right. Yeah, you're good at thinking what's next for the dog's needs.
Yeah.
You may not be the best manager of social media.
No, they told me to do a story of taking Marie hunting on that youth hunt last weekend, and I started to send them videos I was taking, and they're like, we can't post a video of you driving the truck, like you're driving, you're not supposed to be. I was like, well, I was at a stop sign, like it's no big deal. So they ended up not using anything. I was sitting there videotaping the whole weekend, but
for naught.
Yeah.
For
memories.
Yeah. So we got Pheasant Fest coming up, and you guys already sent me some stuff. So I'll have. Wow, I got a tinny sound in my ear. Do I sound real tinny right now? It must be in my ear. So I'll have some new Gunner Kennels there. We're gonna have a giveaway, and I will not be driving home with those kennels. They're going to be given away to some people that are there for the. It doesn't matter when they got to Pheasant Fest, but they got to be there Sunday afternoon to win. So, and that was really nice. I appreciate you guys doing that. But I asked you earlier before we hit record, Duck Expo last year.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be there again. What was that? Was that like a Pheasant Fest of the DU world, the Ducks world?
Yeah. It was cool. It was like I think one of the first national events in either a long time or maybe ever. It was at the Fort Worth, the motor speedway there, and it was huge, and it was really hot. It was like middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Really hot, but it was good. It's good to get back and see everybody. It was kind of when that lull of COVID hit, and kind of got back to normal for a minute. But this year, I think they're doing it in the spring. I think we learned our lesson. And
don't need to be in Texas in the summer.
Yeah, so it'll be in the spring. That'll be a good one. And then, I think NWTF's next week. You're heading back east, aren't you?
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm heading to Virginia and South Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get to hunt with a a retired 4-star general.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool.
What kind? Upland?
Yeah, quail hunting on.
Yeah.
They told me I have to wear a jacket to dinner.
There you go.
Can you picture me with a jacket? I don't have one.
I gotta show you this.
But go ahead. But I believe in my house in Virginia, I think I have a jacket. And if I don't, I got to go to like some
You got a
neighbor's
rent one
house
or
and get a jacket. Yeah.
I just got this.
What is that?
It's a award that I got, and they said send a headshot, and I sent a picture of me and Gunner.
You're the only one in a
Like
hat.
mossy oak, and everybody else has this fancy face shot, and looking
Yeah.
idiot in the middle. It's the closest thing I have to whatever they're called,
Yeah.
headshot. So
You
yeah,
I know you.
I don't have a jacket either.
You didn't shave. I shaved at least this morning. Well, you look like you're trying to grow a beard almost, like you maybe shaved a little bit.
Mustache slash.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you kids. So I got to ask, NWTF. Now I'm not a turkey hunter. I've shot a couple turkeys in my life. How does Gunner go to NWTF, or are you just such a turkey fan?
Well, both. I mean, NWTF was my first show we did back in 2015.
Okay.
And I literally had like the first 2 kennels that we rotomolded and a 3D printed door because we just came out with the door frame and the design for the door. And I was taking pre-orders on like literally a 3D printed like prototype.
So I must be one of them dog owners that don't turkey hunt. And there must be a lot of dog owners that do turkey hunt.
So there's a lot, yeah. So that was actually the first show I learned to not get a booth next to a duck call company because that's all you hear the whole time. So it's a lot. I mean, there's
I should go to that
NWTF.
sometime.
It's not just turkey. It's a lot of deer and a lot of duck hunting.
Maybe I'll pop down there and go to that.
Yeah, I think it starts on Thursday next week.
Oh, next week.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! No,
Yeah.
I'll be having more fun wearing my jacket to dinner, shooting quail off a mule wagon.
But it's a good one. Matter of fact, that second year that I did it, I think I was setting up. This is when I was doing everything: customer service, marketing, like everything.
Yeah.
And I went and set up the booth, and I felt so bad. I went to the hospital. I had shingles, and I ended up in the hospital.
You just overdid it.
Yeah, I was running myself ragged, and my board finally was like, "Well, you got to hire some people. You can't be doing everything on your own." So,
Yeah, I remember. That's how I think when I met you, you used to answer the phone. It was one phone number. It was your cell
it was
phone.
my cell, and I had to finally get a new number, not because I don't want to take everybody's call, but like I've got so many people's numbers as Tom customer, whoever customer.
Right.
And it turned into like my entire day was just trying to help everybody.
Right, and you still
Which
felt
I'm not
like
going to say no.
Because that must have been a couple years ago. Because I dialed your number, I texted you, and some stranger wrote me back.
Right.
I was like, he doesn't even have his own phone.
I
anymore.
literally had to like go dark. I like got a new number, didn't tell anybody.
Back to okay. So NWTF. I can't go there. Damn it! I'd like to go there. Now you got me interested. I just thought it was just a bunch of people turkey.
Yeah. No, it's
And are you a turkey hunter?
yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you find it challenging?
Yes. It used to. So growing up in Nashville when nobody turkey hunted, it was pretty easy. I thought I was a good turkey hunter.
Okay.
And I went to Ole Miss where it's like 5 people are on the same bird on public land.
Yeah.
Like I was playing T-ball. That was kind of the
Oh, okay.
pros. And it is. And now in Nashville they've kind of thinned out and there's a lot more people hunting and kind of lost some access to some different properties. But it's challenging. There's some spots that it's not. I mean, we turkey
That's
hunt
where
in
it
Texas.
is in my place
yeah,
in Michigan.
It's easy.
I went with a neighbor and he said, sit down here, and he called and we watched. The only thing that was hard was waiting for them to quit strutting for an hour.
Right.
And then one of them came my way. He said, shoot. I'm like, what is all the
Yeah.
big thing about
Yeah.
this?
It's
But,
when you have
yeah.
a hunt like that, you're like, oh, this turkey hunting business is easy.
Easy.
But
yeah.
no, it's challenging, especially like around here. It's run and gun. It's for me. I mean, there's places with fields you can set up on the edge of the field, but for
Right.
me, a lot of the places I hunt's in the woods where you're walking miles trying to chase birds. And, it is a challenge, but yeah, I'll send you some videos and maybe plan on going next year because it's
Yeah.
fun. It's a
Oh,
fun
for
show.
sure. Did you ever take, well, I guess I'm jumping. I'm thinking of Gunner's last season because I just had this mental picture, and I'll show people on Instagram. You have one of the hallways here, and I called it Gunner Hall. I don't know
Yeah.
what you call it, but it seemed like a good enough name.
Yeah.
You've got some pictures of him and you, but the coolest part is you've got birds that you shot in his last season of life.
Right.
and you have them all hanging dead mount, which that's the only way I'll get a bird stuffed. I think it's as close as you can get a bird to look.
Right.
Even if you get a good one from a taxidermist in 3 years, you look at it and it's like, you don't look like you did when I picked you up.
Yeah.
You know? So you get this hallway here at Gunner, and about every 8 feet, 6 feet, there's like a cedar frame with a different duck species. Give me a little of that with
so
how that happened to squeeze it in.
it was like it was August of 21, and we found out he had cancer, and all I wanted to do was take him on a hunt with my kids. They had never hunted with him, so I went on one with just me, my oldest Marie, and my nephew Graham, and they told me he wasn't going to make it past Christmas, and so I kept one of those doves. Got to go on another one with all my kids. I was calling everybody I knew. Hey man, can I just go? I don't care if I shoot. I just want to get my kids to watch and retrieve.
Yeah.
So did another hunt with the kids. I think we shot one. But then as the season progressed, he was doing pretty poor, and I wasn't going to hunt him.
Wasn't fair at all.
Yeah, and I could just tell he was hurting. Well, I tried some kind of out there medicine that had rumors to work against cancer, and right around Christmas, I could tell it was within days of we were gonna have to put him down.
Right.
And he bounced back in January and started acting like nothing was wrong, and we kind of last minute lined up like a 18 hunt road trip between, let's see, Kansas, Oklahoma. I know we went to Kentucky, Mississippi, Arkansas, West Tennessee.
Jesus.
And I kept one bird from every hunt, so we ended up. It was really cool. I mean, it starts with a dove, and then it's matter of fact, I took him to a pen raise place in October before the season started because I didn't know he was going to make it.
You just wanted to give him something to do.
Yeah, so we had a pen raise bird hunt. I mean, we killed a lot of mallards, so I kept a couple mallards from that because I thought that was going to be his last hunt.
Right.
But he rallied, and I've got gadwall, wood duck from hunting with
You've
Mossy.
got about 15 species.
I think there's 17.
Yeah.
And there's one spec that I'm still waiting on, which will make it 18. So it's cool because it's everything from like a dove, all different sorts of I think there's a lesser.
You got to look like a brant or a lesser.
It's a lesser. We got a black duck, widgeon, which is one of my favorite. That's the first duck I ever shot was widgeon. And we ended an 8-man limit on his last day of duck season last year with a widgeon that we got on video of me shooting, which is rare that I know I'm the one that killed the bird.
Right.
And then he actually did a tower shoot,
for retrieving.
Yeah, so I mean, I got a couple pheasants in there. So
how long did he rally? A couple months?
I mean, it was all of January, even up to the last day of the season. At the end of January, I have videos of him just rubbing on me, wagging his tail, acting like a puppy.
So he's feeling better than he felt in the last few years, let alone.
Well, he was acting like it.
Yeah, acting like it.
And so he made it up until March, and then started to go downhill. And we had a big crawfish party that we have every year for my oldest. We had friends from out of town, college buddies that were roommates, so everybody got to see him. He was doing okay, but I could tell it was getting close to the next day.
Right.
He went downhill pretty quick. But it was just such a cool experience to have. Every hunt was a bonus hunt. There'd be hunts that we only shot one bird, and I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Good.
He's not even supposed to be alive,
Yeah, they're getting that second lease on life.
Yeah.
That's I could start thinking about a few dogs. I could have just had one more hunt with them.
Yeah.
And he's not just because he didn't get on TV a lot or anything. You guys filmed him, but it was for him. It was all that was your first real dog. I mean, it took you from that pre-family years all through the kids. So it was like. He was as bigger part of you, longer part of you than the rest of your adult life.
Yeah, he was there.
Because I don't count anything in preteens.
No.
It's like you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You get to college age, now you start living.
Right,
and
right.
You did that with your dog.
Yeah, and he was there, he's the reason why I started this company, but he was there before I met Emily and before we had kids.
Yeah.
So it took a while, and still kind of get choked up a little bit about it, but he was a good one. It's the worst part of it that they all have
I will
to
say
go.
that you picked probably the most common name for a lab, though. You do know that?
I didn't know that.
Worked out good for a kennel company. I think it's great.
I'd only heard of one dog before that named Gunner.
If I haven't met 20, I'll eat my hat.
Well, so I remember going in. I was like, I want a British chocolate lab from somewhere in the southeast. And I went into my little hunting closet and I was like, Remington. I was like naming everything I saw, and then I was like, Gunner, and I was like, that's it, Gunner.
And did you think you had something original?
Yeah, like I'd never heard of that. And so maybe it's more common in the upland world.
It might be.
It's like, everybody I knew would name their dog like Gage or like
Yeah.
Remington or something like that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was original. And then, sure enough, I looked up British Chocolate Labs, and the first website that popped up was Little Kennel in North Alabama, and the dad's name was Gunner. And I could tell the mom and dad were both good looking. They'd make a good looking pup, and I was like, it's fate,
Gunner it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a side story, but after Gunner passed and we were gonna get a new dog, Emily was like, I think we should name it a new one Gunner. She grew up with some friends that always had like Lucky 1, Lucky 2, Lucky 7, Lucky 20.
Like George Foreman's kids.
Yeah.
They're all called George.
Yeah. And I was just like, look, too soon to talk about. I'm not saying no, but I can't envision it now. And it was a few weeks ago, I finally kind of came around to talking about it. I was like, look, I understand what you're saying. I understand that it could make sense. I just can't name another dog Gunner. Like that's my special dog. I'd rather start new and have a different name. So I think we've got a name figured out, but it's not Gunner.
Did you ever think of having a contest from?
Yeah, actually, so we're not like dead set on the name, and I'm thinking about, because I'm picking them up tomorrow, I'm thinking about getting them to post and say, here's the puppy.
Right.
What should the name be if we end up using it?
Because sometimes somebody will just come up with something.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you, I just lost Bravo, and my wife has always tried to help me name dogs, because I've always got 4 or 5 dogs.
Yeah.
And she doesn't listen to the show, so I can pick on my wife. They're always terrible names. Always terrible. And she goes, well, what do you think of it? And I don't want to tell her, honey, that's not a good name. Because I always got to think of that calm name.
Right.
Like if you were going to call Gunner, you don't need to use 2 syllables. You could just say Gun.
Right.
It's just the inflection in your voice,
Right.
right? But you don't want 3 syllables.
Right.
All that stuff. So everything's got to kind of translate to a call name, a quick call name.
That's exactly right.
And so my wife, because Bravo, I could call him Brav for short, like Brav, just like that, And when he went, and I've got a Cocker Spaniel that I lost recently, so I've got a new Cocker Spaniel coming. And she decided, she said, the new Cocker Spaniel's name should be Bravissimo. Well, right off the bat, I'm going, wait a minute, you're throwing more syllables in here.
Right.
Because Bravo, and she loved the name Bravo. And I don't know if I ever met another dog named Bravo.
Yeah.
It just means congratulations in Italian or something.
Right.
And so she goes, no, but here's the beauty. She goes, we name her Bravissimo, but her call name is just V. Just one word, one letter. I'm like, I like it.
Yeah.
I finally got ahead of time, but I know people that have, like literally, it's like, give me suggestions.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to name something,
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. You should be able to just call it Dog 2.
Right.
Dog don't care.
Well, I'm thinking we do it like we actually did it with all our kids. We wouldn't have a name until like we're leaving the hospital. They'd always come in and be like, Baby Edmonds number 3. Like, you've got to have a name for this to fill out their Social Security stuff. And we were like, all right, we'll figure it out. And so we wouldn't name them till the very end. But I just pulled up there's a blog that we did on the most common custom nameplates that we do. And so basically, like, from our customers, the most common dog names, and it's like number one's, it goes Duke, Hank, Scout, Gunner's number 4, Cash, Goose, Remy, and I think they did all the way down to.
You have to send me a link to that, because I could poke some fun at that.
Oh, I mean, there's Gage, Colt, Sage.
So Gunner's way up there.
Buck, Boomer, yeah.
And I got 2 friends that have dogs named Gunner, so it's like, now they did get them after yours, so maybe they thought it was a good name for a dog.
Yeah.
So maybe you were onto something, but it got imitated a lot.
I was ahead of the curve.
Kind of like the Gunner Kennel. Sometimes it gets imitated.
Yeah.
Never duplicated, but imitated.
Yeah.
And what is that? The sincerest form of flattery?
That's
right?
what I've heard.
Yeah. So what's coming up? You got the new pup coming, and I know you said, I don't know if you said it on the recording. I think September dove should be doable without getting crazy. Just in a small field, if you can.
Yeah, if it's February now.
It's already 2 months old.
So he'll be 9 months. I think I took Gunner right around 9
Yeah,
months.
9 months isn't too young.
Which I tied like a 30-foot training lead to my leg. No, to my waist.
For dove hunting?
Yeah, we did an early morning dove hunt, so it was still like couldn't see all the way. And he had wrapped around me without knowing it, around my legs. And my buddy shot at the other side of the field, and he took off.
Just because of the noise.
And it just feet out from under me, this flop. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a good dog, I guess. Like, I didn't know what I was getting into.
The dog is so young. He hears another shot.
Takes
and
off.
Pulls you ass over
Yeah.
TK. I'm surprised he didn't drag you through the
Well,
field.
and I'm like, I guess this is how it works with gun dogs.
You tie him to your weight. I had a guy, this is a good friend of mine. He doesn't listen to the show very often. His name is Dr. Dale Ray. And I don't mind using his name. And he showed up. He had a Spinoni. You know what a Spinoni is. They're known for kind of slow, methodical, versatile work. And he shows up with a pointer puppy that's got wheels on it.
Yeah.
Right? He went from, actually he did have a nice Spinoni that did run very fast, which is rare. But he shows up to this pointer at a training day. And he had a modified hose reel on his chest. Honest to God.
Yeah.
And 100 foot of cord from the, like the mountain climbing cord you can buy from the, and it was like he was on a trout, like on a salmon reel. It's like,
Yeah.
and then when the dog would be getting about 100 yards, he'd start squeezing it with a glove and put the drag on it. And then
He'd reel him in.
He'd start reeling him, but he couldn't keep up with the reeling. We poked fun at him for so many years, you know.
That's a pretty good idea if you modify it a
So
little bit.
he was better than you because he didn't get his legs all
Yeah.
tangled up, you
Yeah.
know. But he had this thing in his head too, like there's a security thing about a check cord. I mean, it's a great way to train a dog. I don't
Right.
think a young dog should be off a check cord in most situations.
Right.
For one, safety. You
Yeah.
know, and two, that come when called. You know,
Right.
pull them in. Nothing angry, just hand over hand, make them happy. You
Yeah.
know, a check cord is a valuable tool.
Yeah, unless you're like in a small hallway with no other options, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
What you've had a lot more dogs than I have. Do you have any advice since I've been out of the puppy world for so long? Do you have any advice on?
Yeah. Well, you remember the Etch-a-Sketch
Yeah.
game? You could turn it upside down and erase it.
Yeah.
Probably try to erase
Do
all
that.
Erase all your
What I thought I
memories
knew.
of what you thought you knew.
Yeah.
And just I'd say take it slow.
Yeah.
Take it slow to the point where one of your friends that knows you would say, "Hey, have you shot around the pup yet?" And you're
Right.
like, "No, I'm not in a hurry." And your friend would go, "Addison,
Right.
why haven't you shot around?" Like, take it that slow.
Right.
I don't mean waiting years. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
mean, I think people rush it and they just absolutely, they can see the end. They know what they're seeing their dog. Like you're already seeing this fox red lab
Right.
retrieving a duck in Arkansas next year.
Right.
You're already seeing it.
Right.
He's not there yet.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So just take it slow, but just know it ain't very long to wait. I mean,
Yeah.
look at blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, just going slow with it.
Two things I'm excited about are, one, when I'm back in training mode, I'm back in products mode, and I'm thinking, well, why is this like this? How can I fix this?
Yeah.
I think it's going to pull out some creativity in terms of products
That's a good
and what
idea.
we can do
Yeah.
in the future. And the other is dog training and raising kids is very similar in terms of consistency.
You want to write a book with me on?
Yeah, well, I'm
author
going
it?
to read a book about it. I mean, I'm hoping it's going to help me be a better father because it brings you back to, in a much simpler form, it's all about consistency. Like,
Right.
if the dog pees on the carpet, whose fault is that?
Right.
It's mine because I didn't pick up on the signs that he was about to go.
Right. You didn't
Yeah.
pay attention,
Right,
and you took one more minute to answer a phone
right,
or look at
Yeah.
an email, and then you're like, oh.
yeah,
Well, if you're consistent and good with crate training and everything, yeah, you can literally go without those headaches.
I mean, hopefully in a few months I'll be able to blow a whistle and all four of my kids will go get in their kennel and
That would be nice. That would be. Could you get the oldest one to go in the kennel right now though? Just.
I mean, they all like play with them and stuff. And
Yeah.
Go. I think last year, the
Wait,
year
do you have
before-
like a jungle gym made out of old Gunner
No, I
Kennels?
wish, but we did a
Sure.
warehouse sale like right before COVID, and we had a large, intermediate, medium, and small, and we had the four kids by size. And
Oh,
each
did you? Because you know what you should do is bolt them up like a pyramid.
yeah, let them crawl.
Except you got to put the youngest kid in the small, and your wife probably won't want the,
Yeah,
the
up in the
2-year-old
top.
up in the top.
But shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh no, the other thing that I've heard is like get your family on the same track as you. Like
Yeah.
let them know like this is gonna be a hunting dog. We've got to do
Right.
it this way. And the cool thing is like at least I know that the two oldest, they remember. I mean, I've got pictures of them with a diaper and a whistle on, trying to train.
Right.
Like I think that they're going to help me, and really, I can't wait to kind of raise them in that dog training environment.
Where the younger ones are just, it's basically a new stuffed animal to,
Yeah.
to a young kid,
Yeah.
2-year-old.
Right.
But the older ones, yeah, that's true. That might fire you up too.
Yeah.
To say like, hey,
Train
come on.
them to train.
It's 3. I get home at 5:00.
Right.
Let's go do 5 minutes of something.
Right.
Out in the backyard with the dog.
Teach them a little responsibility
Yeah.
with feeding them
And gives the dog, and then structure that.
Right.
You don't have to do it every day at 5, but do it every day.
Right. Yeah.
And I've always said, like, I had a great wife that raised my daughters. I certainly had an influence on it. I don't exactly know what that influence was. I think they're chatty Cathys like me. But puppies are just like kids, and kids are just like puppies. The difference is a puppy gets to be a teenager by the
Much
time he's a
quicker.
year.
Yeah.
But you could see all those little pieces of puppy in your children.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you never had the kids, you had nothing to compare it to.
Right.
And then if you have kids and you never had the dog, it's like overwhelming. You think you've got an alien. It's not an alien, it's just a dog.
Right.
A gazillion people have raised these things. But it is cool when you've had a dog and then you see the kids, you have the kids like you did too.
Yeah.
You're like, you're acting just like the
Yeah,
dog.
there's a lot of similarities.
I have to be more consistent with you.
Yeah.
And we can't get ice cream every day.
Right.
Right.
Which is a good reminder for, parenting is you'll every once in a while you got to check yourself of like, well, I'm really giving in to them
Yeah.
on this, that, or the other, and that's going to turn into having a spoiled kid.
Right.
So it's kind of checking them.
And it goes to having a spoiled dog.
Right.
You've hunted with a few, haven't you?
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah.
Would you consider Gunner spoiled because
Well-
he was your first and only?
He wasn't until I met Emily. I mean,
Oh,
he never,
okay.
he didn't care about anybody petting him. He'd sleep underneath this table. He was just this little robot.
And he just went hunting with you and then
That's all he cared about.
just waited to go hunting again?
Yeah, that's all I care about. If he saw me load up my waders, my gun, I'd open the door to my truck, he'd jump in. I'd leave the door open. It would be like 4 hours till we're leaving. He's just sitting there waiting. Like,
Yeah.
That's all he cared about. Then Emily kind of loosened him up a little bit, and he probably still wasn't spoiled per se, but I think by the end of it, yeah, probably ended up spoiling a little bit.
He was like, hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Can't help it. I mean,
Right.
I owed him my life,
Yeah.
everything that I've got is from that dog.
From that dog.
So if he wants a Big Mac.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I sent this picture to Macy. This is my own testimony. This was not a dog-related crash, but when I was filming the Upland Institute a couple years ago, I had just got a deck drawer system, and Justin told me, he says, we need to bring one of the Gunner Kennels over for what we're going to do with the dog, and I had some over there for different filming, but I needed this kennel in my truck, and I throw that and talk about throwing. I get that large, but I got to get it up onto the deck, right?
Right.
So there's not much freeboard rail sticking out of the truck, and I start back. I'm like, oh, dummy, I better strap that down. And a lot of people probably don't use the Gunner straps.
Yeah.
I'm sure a good rated strap is a good rated strap. But
Right.
I will give you a testimonial that you didn't know about. I had the straps, of course, because I had loaded my deck system up with all my stuff. And I took 2 straps, one in each corner, down to the corner, and locked it in, but not tight. Just, I'm not cinching it down. There's no
Right.
dog.
Right.
Right? Well, it was a little loose. And I start going to it's about a 20-minute drive. I got to get on the interstate for a few minutes. Get there, and I forget a microphone, a boom mic, whatever we needed. And I'm like, I'll just run right back. Well, I'm in a hurry now. So I hit
Got
up
it.
to about 75 miles
Yeah.
an hour, maybe close to 80. And because I only had a front strap on it, and because it's so high out of the bed of the truck, and I had the large kennel, it literally flipped up. I saw it in my mirror, which I thought it was going out into the highway.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the 2 people behind me
Yeah.
saw this? They're thinking, they got to think there's a dog in it, right?
Yeah.
It says Hunting Dog Podcast
Right.
on the side of my truck when they passed me. I probably scared the crap out of them. That kennel,
Just hanging.
but it went bam, like you heard a bam.
Yeah.
Because it's just long enough to hit the ground and hit the bumper. And of course, as soon as I saw that going, it was too late to do anything about it. But I started hitting the shoulder. I hear this big boom. I get out. The straps held. There was nothing wrong with the kennel.
Yeah.
Just a big nick, for, a rough spot from the asphalt.
Right.
And I had a bumper hitch on, so you figure that thing came around like a pendulum.
Yeah.
Didn't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
And I put it back up in there, and then I actually
Strapped
stitched it down like you're supposed to do. So everybody strap your kennels down.
Yeah. No, I'd say like 90% of our wrecks that customers call about don't have it strapped down, or they have like a 1-inch ratchet strap.
And you got to watch those. Some of those aren't rated.
They'll rip like that.
They're not rated.
And so I was on my way to a show in Arkansas a couple years ago, and I've got that truck vault. It's the same thing. And I had to take, I think I had a bunch of kennels in my trailer, as many kennels as I could fit in the back of my truck, which they're all vertical. So like the door was facing straight up.
Right.
So I had like maybe 8 of them.
Yeah.
And the one in the back right corner had a all-weather kit. It was a really windy day. I was going like 85. And I looked in my rearview mirror, and that large picked up, hit my trailer, hit the ground, rolled straight. First thing it hit was a sign on the road, and then I saw it roll like 20 yards.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, do I to pull over, turn around, and get back to that spot with the trailer is going to be like an hour ordeal.
Yeah.
But I was just genuinely curious. Like, that looked really bad.
Yeah.
I just want to see the kennel.
Right.
And I finally made my way around, pulled over, got it, drug it back, and it was the same thing. It had like a nick on the side.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell, I can still sell
Did you
this.
steal that recipe from NASA or something? the plastic recipe, whatever
No.
What is it actually called? What is the material that the Gunner's made of?
Oh, it's rotomolded. I believe it's polyethylene. It's some form of polyethylene.
Yeah, because that's as good as the old play school toys that when my kids were little 35 years ago, my wife saved one of those little tyke slides.
Yeah.
And we're using it for our grandchildren.
Yeah.
It is just as strong, whatever that was made of.
Yeah.
It must be the same
It's
thing.
rotomolded. A lot of kids' toys are rotomolded. Some of them are blow molded, but yeah, same stuff. It's it was. I was hunting every day, going through a few Coleman coolers, and then Yeti came out, and I was like, wow, this is made for me.
This is made.
And
you'll have this forever.
I still have it in the back of my truck. It's the same one.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of inspired the whole thing was somebody needs to make a dog kennel like Yeti made an ice chest.
Right.
And just ran with that. Just assumed somebody else might appreciate that like I would.
Did you ever have anybody telling you like, bad idea, Addison?
Oh, everybody.
Oh, well,
everybody.
I mean, like mom and dad, or like
Yeah.
even friends?
Oh yeah,
everybody.
Everybody. Like I convinced myself like within a week that I should do it. So I sold my advertising company, and I mean I remember everybody that I talked to was like, and I wanted to retail it for $350, which at the time most expensive was $50.
Yeah.
Then a $2,000 aluminum box.
Right.
And I remember raising money. People saying, "You're going to sell it for $350? Nobody's going to buy that." I'm like, "Well, I would. And I don't have any money. I would for my dog."
Right. Right.
And then we did the crash test, and we had to overhaul the door, and it just cost a whole lot more. So I think we first started selling them for $400 or $500, and we couldn't make enough of them. And it was one of those you just got to go with your gut.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to where we just got married. We didn't have any kids, so I kind of was okay being.
Could be okay being on the edge a little
Right.
bit. Yeah.
If it failed, it failed. At least I tried. But
You could always move in with mom or dad or in-laws,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then have to take the ridicule for the next 5 years.
right. But I mean, I figured might as well try it.
Yeah.
It turns out, I guess other people want the best for their dog.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I get around all over the country, and I go to a lot of kennels. And I don't know how many, what I call air crates. This is the way we call them, air
Yeah.
crates, right? Yeah, you can put a dog in there. Okay, not a big deal. If it's a dog that doesn't have a problem being in a crate and was crate trained, it's not safe, but at least he's not going to be out roaming around getting hit by a
Right.
car. So at least they're putting a dog in a crate. But everywhere I go, you will see those old crates stacked up behind people's garages.
Yeah.
Because this cracks, that cracks. It's like, I'll guarantee you they could have they probably got 10 kennels behind their kennel.
Right.
And they could have bought 4 gunners, and nowadays they can buy
Right.
4 gunners. Because I tell everybody, you guys send me some scripts sometimes to talk, and I always go off script like I do all the time.
Yeah.
And I always say, I got to put this thing in my will. because what's going to go wrong with it?
Right.
And then my kids are going to, like, she's got a lab and she's got a Bronco, and someone's going to, well, I want Dad's Gunner.
Right.
So now I got to put the damn thing in the will. So, but it is a great product.
Yeah.
It's been, and Gunner's been very, you're my oldest sponsor.
Yeah, when did that start? I mean, it had been 2016 at the...
I think so, because I started a podcast in 15.
Okay.
And I think I called you up to interview you.
That might have been 15.
That might have been 15. And then I went to go do that episode with Steve Ranella.
That was
on the
September, and we started making them in like July. So we had just started making them. Yeah.
And I remember I called you up, and because I said, well, it was nice. Because, when you're starting out podcasting, you're trying to get some people in the industry. You don't want to just have all your best friends over drunk on a tailgate.
Right.
Anybody could do that.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I got a hold of this guy that made this kennel, And I remember I woke up, I was in Virginia, and I woke up, I said, we're going to be filming in 2 days.
Right.
I should have called Addison. I'm more of a favor.
Right.
Like it would get on television.
Yeah.
And I called you up, and I think you woke up groggy because you didn't have any kids back then either, or maybe the first one.
Yeah, the first one, but yeah.
And I said, I apologize, but I'm doing a television show, and I probably could have got those kennels in there, and you said, I can get them there. Give me your address. And I
Well,
said,
you're like an hour north of our Molders.
Yeah, I didn't know the logistics.
Yeah.
And boom, next day.
Yeah.
Next day, and then I got to see him. I'm like, oh man. And I kept thinking, like, I'm coming out, like, I don't have to send these back, do I? I felt like I had sponsors then, and then it just turned into everything.
Yeah. I remember because I think I was in North Carolina at the Molders, and when you're like, hey, we got a chance to get them on TV, we've been taking pre-orders since March. We were way backed up.
Wow.
And I was like, we're gonna have to cut 2 people out of the line and send them up there.
But we never know who it was, right? Never know who it was.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, this happens every time a podcast starts, and I always usually get an invite or make an invite, but we have yet to shoot a shotgun together.
I can't believe that.
So that is something, and we will have to rectify for next season.
What do you want to do, upland or ducks?
Do you want to walk or sit on your butt?
I like doing both.
Well, we could go to North Dakota and do both, or no. You know what? You've got good duck connections. I would.
Come and duck hunt.
Yeah, get me on a duck hunt because I've got good places to go. So going to another good upland spot is always fun.
Yeah.
But it's like I do very little duck hunting. I do some duck hunting, pothole hunting here, there, a little bit North Dakota.
Right.
But I rarely ever get to sit in the well-built blind and have that morning bullshit sessions. I haven't done that in a long time. So I'm putting it on you.
Well, we'll do it, and we'll have a podcast on how this new dog.
We'll bring the directional mic right in there. In it, we'll get the shotgun. We'll get your new dog going.
My dog never does this. I swear.
No. I've never seen my dog do this. But yeah, that'd be fun. I'll bring the recording equipment, a shotgun, and you find us a place to hunt.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm down.
Did we cover everything else? We don't want Emily to get mad at us now.
Let me check.
Let's check. Here's the sheet.
I think we've caught. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, we did it. Holy cow.
And we didn't get too off track.
A couple of guys that have hit their highest level of incompetency got through 55 minutes and 3 seconds of recording.
Perfect.
Thanks, Addison.
Yeah, thank you.